Hi guys, welcome back to my channel again, and now we are going to do another video that is the update 8.7 of World of Tanks Blitz. And why I'm making this video? Because this video, I think there are some interesting features about this video. And let's talk about this little juicy later, even if it is. Okay. First thing first, as we noticed, they buffed the T92 E1 standard and HE shell, but nerfed a little bit its E shells. Nice buff for the M46 pattern for dispersion that wasn't quite needed, but it's always great to receive some buffs. We have some buffs for the 105 to 140 for DPM because the reload decreases by a lot, and even for the 115 millimeter T140A, we have a nerf of penetration but buff of DPM by really a lot because the magazine reload will decrease by a lot, like 4 or 5 seconds. And for the 120 millimeter gun, we have dispersion buff and base emitter nerf. For the A phase one, we have a buff of dispersion value. T95, we have a buff of speed and a nerf of DPM. This nerf isn't really a lot, but it can hurt a little bit. T54, we have a buff of dispersion. ST1 nerf of 2 km. Why? This is I didn't understand this. IS8 buff dispersion nerf speed. This tank will be a little bit worse because this tank was basically a big chunky medium tank. With OBJ 704, we have a 8-point buff, rate of fire nerf, and a little bit faster. This was supposed to be a TD, but the nerf is TD capabilities for me. It has higher rate of fire now. No, higher reload, so it will be worse in this patch. Buff of E50, reload buff. This is very good for this tank, but dispersion nerf only for the 105 millimeter. So they didn't buff the 8.8 long super long gun. Leopard PTA buff of the Leopard, a little bit of dispersion nerf, but a much better reload time. The K45 will be slower. K Panzer 70 penetration has been buffed. The Jack Tiger has been nerfed. Put the Alpha a little bit faster, but slower rate of fire. The dispersion of the Centurion will be nerfed. Conway will be nerfed. Tortoise will be DPM buff, but a dispersion nerf. Type 61 has been nerfed. VZ has been buffed, a little bit slower, but better accuracy. AMX 5120 has been buffed a little bit, but it is lower. Foch has been buffed for DPM by a lot, honestly. Skoda has been buffed. I don't know why, but because Skoda was a good tank. Emilto has been buffed for speed wise, but not to retroverse. Servuti will be a tank that we could buy, or no, it's an event about this tank. Wolverine has been and they made 81 as different caliber. Now we'll see here we have some armors, nerfs, and buffs. I will not count Tiger 2 because Tiger 2 received its HD model because it will be more smooth and a little bit better armor. KV2 will receive its HD model here, and the other one I don't remember what it is. No. First thing first, we are going to see the VK4502B buff armor. And this is, guys, you can feel it. You can feel this buff. because first of all you had like 130 millimeter armor here, and its weak point was a little bit, and here was a little bit easier to penetrate. But with this buff, you can do side scraping. Yay! I can do, yeah, I can do side scraping with my German tank. Yeah, much better respect what you could do, because here was a little bit more fragile, and the lower plate is basically, impenetrable. Let's see, 8.6, 8.6. This tank had a little bit worse here, weak point. Here you could, here was 104 millimeter, and yeah, the lower glass here was a little bit of paper. Centurion buff, as you see, from 8.7, they buffed the turret of this tank. Now here you have a little more armor, even here, and this glacis becomes much harder. As you see here, it was quite weak, and even here, and yeah, it was quite weak tank. Even the Conqueror as turret buff, as we'll see here, the Conqueror as little bit here as more buff, but you have to see the armor when it's a hold down. Not the best, but not the worst. This is on 8.7. On 8.6 was a little bit worse. Yeah, the turret was a little bit paper of turret, as we know about this tank. The buff that were all we are gonna love and hate is the tortoise buff. As you see, tortoise didn't have the best armor for the tank it was, because it was quite easy to penetrate, this wasn't right for this type of tank. But now the tortoise will have a little bit more armor. Honestly, the Capula is harder but penetrable, and the tank in overall it's harder. Here you can't penetrate it. Here you can penetrate it. But as soon as you do this, yeah, you basically have to load the gold. Type 61 receives a turret, a magical turret buff. As you see, the Type 61 was a paper tank, very thin paper armor. But now Type 61 received a huge substantial buff of the turret. And now it's much better. As you see, the turret can bounce really much more. Type 55, T55 received a turret buff. As you see here, the turret has been buffed here, and it's harder. TS5 basically received a side buff from here. This side has been buffed, and now it's much harder. 130 millimeter, you can actually wiggle a little bit more because they would penetrate you here, and now it's harder. Turtle Mach 1, another well-weighted buff, because Turtle Mach 1 basically at this little meh part of the tank that it was quite easily penetrated by everyone. In 8.7, they buff the lower glacis here and the weak point here. So we are going to hold down these little glacis will not be as easy penetrable as before. And we'll see a little bit of turret buffer here. And this is KV2. Uh, last, last but not least, the introduction of the new Soviet light tank line. Uh, I had, not me personally, but I saw some discussions about these light tanks, and as I know, I play even World of Tanks too, and LT is a very good light tank on World of Tanks. Why? Because of its camo rating and its turret armor. But here, yeah, it has a turret armor. It's quite strong, but I cannot judge it until it will came out. Yeah, the tank is it will be good overall. And even this one is a basically T92 version, Russian version. And I think this one has more gun depression. Yeah, this one has more gun depression than the tier 10. But the tier 10 I think has more armor. But overall, these tanks, if you see the tier 10 and the tier 8 premium, these tanks are basically hard hitter light tanks, and I think they have that new ability that was the spotting shell. I don't know how you call. But statistically, this tank is very nice on paper. But as I see it against, or I will not judge it because this is a very good spotter. It has a very good DPM. This is the strongest part of this tank. The gun on this tank it performs well, even on penetration. Maybe not the AP, premium AP, but they perform really well. So this tank will be good indeed. But gun handling is good, dispersion effect is good, aiming arc is good, turret traverse is good. Speed wise is good, effective power. Sorry, guys. Effective power and weight ratio. It's very bad on soft terrain, but on medium hard, it's normal. It's one of the worst. So don't you expect to go always 68 because the power weight ratio and the traverse speed will hold you back really a lot. But the concealment is this tank is a hard hitter conceal tank on of course randoms. You you cannot compete. You can compete 1v1 against the Vickers Light, but the Vickers Light is more dynamic because I think for one reason. For one reason that I heard from a lot of people, the gun depression. The problem of this tier 10 is the problem that every Russian has, the gun depression. And you know, what's the gun depression all back about this tank? Everything. Guys, gun depression is a very important value for medium tanks. Maybe not for heavy tanks, but for medium and light tank is very important because the problem of a medium tank is that it doesn't always have armor and it doesn't always the heavy tank capabilities. And the thing that makes a medium tank even good is the capability to hide this chunky uh, paper armor and expose the most armored value of the tank. For example, the M48 pattern STB1 can do this very well. M48 pattern is bad played. STB1 is good played because good players plays more the STB1. If the M does the same, Leopard 1. So when you're on reach line, you like I'll make you see an example of what I mean. When you're on reach line, you don't want to expose this area. You want to expose your tank like this. And this tank is perfect. This tank is perfect because, as you see, this is a very small turret. And if you go like super like this, if it is like 1 meters, you cannot hit it because the turret is so small that it's very difficult to plan. I'm 100% sure that this turret will be super troll. But the gun depression of this tank has it doesn't let you play this tank on a lot of range lines, and this is not very good for this tank. And for example, where it written light tank tier 10 Vickers Light, the Vickers Light lets you do this because the Vickers Light has 10 degree of gun depression, so you can play like the tank on a range line and expose your tank like this. I know it's huger, but if an enemy is right down of you and you have 10 degree, you can shoot at it. With the T110LT, you basically cannot. But T110LT has more armor, and I don't say it's more. It's a brawl light tank only if you know that the enemy tank you will absolutely kill it without losing 8 points. Why you say I say so? Because it's a light tank. It's a light tank, so it doesn't have the hit point value of a medium tank, for example, like this one. It has maybe the same, the a little bit same, but medium tanks has more armor respect to the T110LT. Yeah, you can load gold, but medium tank, um, Raysan, if they can expose your turret, you're basically dead. So what I say, you have to play well with this tank. Not be a good player, but I say play well. You have to see what's happening in the battle. Of course, the first thing you have to do is spotting, but you have to see what happens in the battle. You don't have to just rush like 262A in a hold down position and kill them all. This isn't the type of tank. And that's it, guys. All 90% of these tanks, of these Russian mediums, are like this. Maybe they are a little bit weaker. I see they are a little bit weaker as per respect to the T110. This one is a big chunk of armor here. This one is basically useless tank. It's paper. This one is our T54LT that we already have in the game, and the strongest the tier 10 has the strongest armor. This is basically the T92 E1 from Russia, and this tank has a good armor too. Even if you can use your gun depression, this tank can have armor, but only here. So, of course, the best one would be the tier 10 in this line. So, guys, if you enjoyed the video, put a like. If you don't, put this like. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.